Hey everybody, welcome to my booth. I'm Jay, and we got count 'em, two different submissions today from two of our booth buddies. Kevin's up first, and Muhamed is up second. Muhamed, importantly, this is his second submission as a booth buddy, 2 subscriber feedback. That's a perk that you can get if you are a booth buddy. So if that's of interest to you, check it out down below. Otherwise, thanks for being here. We're going to start with Kevin, then we'll move over to Muhamed. Both Kevin and Muhamed, English, as they both told me, is not their first language, so it factors into their performance a little bit. Muhamed, in his first submission, asked if there were any notes about accent-specific stuff. Kevin didn't ask that, so I'm not going to focus on it, but there we are. Kevin, let's dive in, my friend.
For the most wild, yet most homely narrative which I am about to pen, I neither expect nor solicit belief, but indeed would I be to expect it, in a case where my very senses reject their own evidence. Yet mad I am not, and very surely do I not dream, but tomorrow I died, and today I will unburden my soul. My immediate purpose is to place before the world, plainly, succinctly, and without comment, a series of mere household events. In their consequences, these events have terrified, have tortured, have destroyed me. Yet I will not attempt to expound them. To me, they at present little but horror. To many, they will seem less terrible than barrocks.
Mate, yeah, I dig a lot. Really, really compelling read there. Love your attachment to the text. Love that you're allowing yourself these little dips into emotional moments. I think it's awesome. I think I like it a lot. Your sound is great. You've got a lovely voice as well. And I love that you've taken it to this sort of whispering, conspiratorial almost thing, almost as if this thing that you're about to tell us about is listening, which I really, really like that additive nature to this performance. All really cool. My only thoughts in terms of the performance itself, some of it's a little bit subjective on my part, and some of it you might just try and see if it improves certain things. Firstly, because this is something that I don't want to take away the emotion that you brought to it, because I think it's really, really lovely. But there is a thing within the audiobook world as you're narrating where if things get emotional or like spooky stuff, that you can step back. The person who I got this note from, Pat Fraley, and or maybe Scott Brick, but they said when it gets hot, you can go cold, meaning rather than pitching yourself into the drama of the circumstance and really riding the emotional intensity of the moment and putting that into your voice, you can sort of shift back into almost a observer's point of view, which would be colder, more objective, rather than hot and full of the emotion of the moment. Because in certain moments like that, this can be like action sequences, certain romantic sequences, moments where you don't really need to impose your own emotional interpretation upon the text, but you can let the listener fill that in themselves, because the words kind of carry their own emotional weight based off of the action that's happening. My instinct is there may be some room for that here. I don't want to take away the emotion that you're bringing to it, because it's really, really lovely. But I guess maybe it might be a balance here between keeping this emotional core that you've really explored in a beautiful way already, but balancing that with the need to report this story. I need to tell you this information so that this doesn't happen to you, or to warn you about it, or to tell my story so that it's out of my head. Whatever the circumstances or reasoning behind it is, if that plays into it, it could be a really interesting tack in terms of the performance. The line that's making me think this in particular is around here.
My immediate purpose is to place before the world, plainly, succinctly, and without comment.
My immediate purpose is to place before the world, plainly, succinctly, and without comment, a series of events.
A series of mere household events.
A series of mere household events. So I guess because you've got this beautiful emotional bed, if we try to cover that up, because our primary goal, the reason that we're here, is to succinctly, without comment, just tell you what happened. I'm here to tell this story, and that's my main focus. If we hold on to that, we can still keep the clear trauma that this person experienced underneath that, and that'll be a really, really beautiful layer. But if the principal goal is I need to tell this story, then that'll have more of a driving force, or it might have the potential for more of a driving force than if we indulge just emotional intensity moment after moment. And to be very clear, I'm not saying that you're doing that, but as an idea for you as this story continues, or if you were to rework this moment as a whole. I also think in terms of the performance, because you have this urgency, which is tied to that emotional state, I feel, if you allow yourself to slow down a little bit and almost gather yourself, like for some reason the image that comes to mind is if a witness gets on the stand before a jury, before a courtroom, and they're having to tell this story. Usually they're having to, or if it's just in a lot of scenes there that many of us, I'm sure, have seen, the witness will take their time. I'm here to tell my story. And you can let that space, that air, that pacing build tension for you. Because if you just steamroll and cascade with emotional intensity and tell us in a way that this was really spooky, scary stuff that happened to me, and I'm here to tell you so that it doesn't happen to you, it's great to have that facility and to get caught up in it, but we want to leave ourselves room. We want to leave ourselves somewhere to go. So if we keep the lid on that and bury it a little bit so that it's here, but I come here to tell you this story as succinctly, as confidently as I can, whatever the words are. But if we have that pent up, and don't do it like I just did, but in that vein kind of, it might be an interesting thing to explore. I don't know if it's of interest to you specifically, but just a couple accent notes for you as you're continuing to improve upon that. Firstly, I thought it was great. Your accent sounds Spanish in a sense, and I don't know if I'm wrong, but the sounds that I'm hearing are namely consonant sounds that are different. V's, because in Spanish it'll be like... I'll listen for one.
Yet most homely narrative which I'm about to pen, I neither expect nor solicit belief.
Neither expect nor solicit belief. Yeah, there are just certain consonant sounds, particularly in the middle of words, that tends to become, at least in my experience of Spanish, become more fluid and elided, whereas at least in American English, consonants are like the drum that we're smashing or the cymbal that we crash into. We're a very elegant people, we Americans. So while you are sliding through things, which is, of course, lovely, if you were to translate that into more of an Americanized accent, you would just want to punch those consonants a little bit more. Let me see if, so like...
I neither expect.
It would be I neither, so it's kind of, you're adding a sort of gummier neither. So that's a vowel sound.
Mar indeed would I be to expect. Mar indeed would I be to expect.
What is that word?
Mar indeed would I be to expect it, in a case where my very senses reject their own evidence.
So that's a V there. Evidence is what I'm hearing a little bit. Evidence, which makes sense with the Spanish because it's like very, I can't remember any of my Spanish words right now. But right here,
Evidence.
Evidence is kind of, the V is somewhat like a V. So the difference there, and I'll leave it at this, but some consonant sounds, some vowel sounds, just take a listen for and do like an A-B comparison. Find the exact word that you hear in this. Or if you have like an American friend or an English speaking, somebody whose first language is English, who could like record this for you. This is a great technique that I've used for other accents. I had to learn South African accents at one time, and I had friends who are South African. I just said, hey, can you record this text for me and just say it as you would say it? And then I can do a sort of reverse engineering, record myself saying it and do an A-B comparison. But just for the V sound, and we'll leave it at that, evidence versus ev. So for an Americanized V, we sort of, the light, no. The V is we sort of, the teeth go on the lower lip and it becomes a v, rather than a evidence, evidence. So that's one difference there. But all in all, my friend, really, really solid read here. I can't wait to hear the rest of the story. Thanks for submitting. Now, let's go to Muhamed. So, really cool. Muhamed sent a second edition of a demo that had initially been submitted. New spots in a way, but adjusting both based off of engineering notes that we gave, sound quality notes, performance notes, and accent notes. So we'll give sort of just a quick little A-B listen to one of these spots in the original, and then the second just to get sort of a before-after comparison.
What if I told you there's a website that led to over 30 people being arrested for trying to hire a hitman? This site isn't illegal, but using it could ruin your life.
Cool. Now let's listen to the new sample.
Craving something sweet? We've got you covered. Dive into our delicious chocolate chip cookies. Because who wouldn't resist biting into one of these? Sweet Talk Bakery.
Love it.
Self-care isn't always candles and bubble baths. Sometimes it's turning off your phone and just breathing. Bloom offers daily check-ins, mindful exercises, and simple tools to help you find peace in the noise. You don't need a cape to conquer mornings. You just need better coffee. Romer delivers single origin beans, roasted fresh and brewed bold, right to your door. So skip the line, hit snooze, and start your day your way.
Yeah, dude, great. So some of the things that I'm hearing and I'm loving the differences in, I can't remember what our initial notes were, but just in listening to your first sample versus this one, things that I love. Your range is vastly different. In the first sample that you sent, a lot of it had a similar sort of almost monotone pacing as well as dynamic range, or as I always call it, topography, with respect to the peaks and valleys of your performance. Not in terms of necessarily like, now I have a loud moment, now I have a quiet moment, but a lot of it kind of registered as this sort of tone where we would get a lot of the information, but we didn't really have a lot of emotional content behind it. And in the second one, it's a lot. I love this a lot more. I love this this coffee one because you can definitely hear the different peaks and valleys in your joy of experiencing things. So let's break it down, go one by one. before I forget, if you were to take this whole thing as a singular demo, there are a couple of things that you might adjust. One would be, I have a video on this channel about making your own demo in Reaper specifically. So you can check that one out. It's a full step-by-step walkthrough on how I would go about making a demo, but just a quick rundown. Each of these samples is wonderful on their own, but if you wanted to compile them into a larger demo, it's helpful to have things move a little bit more quickly and fluidly one into the next. The first demo or first sample should be between 10, it should be around 10 seconds probably. 15 would be the max. And then the rest of them you can sort of just hodgepodge in 5 to 8 to 10 seconds at the longest of different genres, different things, which you've done here really well. You've got the coffee spot, the relaxing spa spot, and I can't remember what this first one is already.
Craving something sweet?
The cookie spot. So you could bring in like a car commercial or a more corporate type thing or a pharmacy ad, whatever, and have those cobbled together, moving a little bit more from one to the next. I'd also say I like your music beds on the spots themselves. You could smooth out the transitions between them or have them like sort of blend over each other. I talk about all that in my demo walkthrough, but a couple things to look at if they're of interest to you, my friend. All right, let's break these down one by one and go through them with a fine-tooth comb.
Craving something sweet? We've got you covered. Dive into our delicious chocolate chip cookies, because who wouldn't resist biting into one of these? Sweet Talk Bakery.
So, performance, I like. You've got the good thing, because who wouldn't resist diving into one of these? Sweet Talk Bakery. Admittedly, the name of the bakery itself is a little bit muddy with the music at the moment. So a couple things you could do to fix that. One, generally your microphone sounds just a smidge muffled. You can hear that a little bit more clearly in your first sample.
Life has a peculiar way. If I told you there's a website.
It's just very subtly muffly in a bit. And what you can do, one fix to that without going and buying a big ol' fancy microphone or anything like that, you can just add a high shelf boost towards the top end of your audio. It's not going to work as well here because we've got, and these numbers aren't necessarily right, so don't copy paste them, everybody. But it'll give you an idea of how it'll brighten up your vocals.
Craving something sweet? We've got you covered. Dive into our delicious chocolate chip cookies, because who wouldn't resist biting into one of...
This is also why your top end's missing. It's just missing, which could just be the type of microphone you're using. But this will help to... I'm blasting it right here so that we can really hear the difference. But this will help to brighten up the top end and help you make room over the music and clarify some of the articulation in your words there.
Sweet Talk Bakery.
So that's with the EQ.
Sweet Talk Bakery.
Without. I'm just going to loop it and click on and off a few times, and we'll listen. So we'll start off, and then I'll click back on and off again.
Sweet Talk Bakery. Sweet Talk Bakery. Sweet Talk Bakery. Sweet Talk Bakery.
So that's one idea for you that'll help you gain some air over the music itself as a whole. And I would do that on your voiceover only before you comp your voiceover and music together. But as far as your read for this spot, I think it's pretty solid. Let's listen to it one more time.
Craving something sweet? We've got you covered. Dive into our delicious chocolate chip cookies, because who wouldn't resist biting into one of these? Sweet Talk Bakery. Self-care isn't always candles and bubble baths. Sometimes it's turning off your phone and just breathing. Bloom offers daily check-ins, mindful exercises, and simple tools to help you find peace in the noise.
Again, with this one, the name of the company is just a little bit mumbly. Sweet Talk Bakery, and here I think it's Bloom, but I'm not sure. And you just want to be very, very sure that you're letting that have the most glitter and sparkle in the whole spot, because if that gets buried, you're kind of in trouble. But again, I love the pacing of the read. I love the different emotional valleys and stuff like that. We start off with this, like, it's not always like this. Sometimes you just got to do this. This place is really great and has all these wonderful things that can help you. I would just perhaps reinvest even more so, because you've come miles from first sample to this one. Invest even more so in the person that you're talking to and why their life. This is something that helps me a lot when I'm reading stuff like this. How is what this product, this space is, this app, this spa, whatever this thing is, going to help or solve a specific problem for the person who I'm talking to? Sometimes the world is full of all this noise, and sometimes you just got to unplug. This place offers you great stuff. So if I'm solving specific problems, it can just help add that little bit more connection, which you're more or less there in a lot of ways, but I think we can go just a hair further.
You don't need a cape to conquer mornings. You just need better coffee. Romer delivers single origin beans, roasted fresh and brewed bold, right to your door. So skip the line, hit snooze, and start your day your way.
This one, unfortunately, again, the product name is a little bit garbled as well, but I think that this one in particular, you're competing with the music in a very, very heavy way. Again, in my demo video, I talk about how you can address that specifically, but on your music track, one thing you can do is add an EQ dip that it looks somewhat like this in your music, and that on your music track, and that will give your voiceover more space there, so you're not competing as much. In this one as well, I would love more. These are two techniques that I lay up to folks often. One is the shrug, and the other is the smile. I struggle with these because I feel like a big old phony when I'm whipping them out for commercial reads often, but it works. So for example, if, I don't know, if I read an ad that says like, Jaymyers voiceover, buy now. If I cover the camera and say it twice, one smiling, one without, and one with a shrug and one without. So I'll do three. One totally neutral, one with just a smile, and one with the smile and shrug. Again, the text is Jaymyers voiceover, buy now, or whatever. Ready? Jaymyers voiceover, buy now. Jaymyers voiceover, buy now. Jaymyers voiceover, buy now. Slightly different reads, but what were your guesses? Big reveal. Number one was smile and shrug. Number two was dead flat. Number three was just the smile. And those three things, you feel like a weirdo doing it sometimes, at least I do, but it can be helpful. And I think in this last one, particularly with coffee, every coffee commercial is, yay, my coffee. Lay it up, spoon feed it to us. All we want is to sniff our coffee and pretend that the world isn't on fire. Oh, what better commercial is there? Anyway, hope that this was helpful for both of you. Thank you again so much for submitting. Thanks to all of our booth buddies out there. Y'all are the dreamers and the believers. I don't know. I was coming up with a bunch of random stuff, but I appreciate you all very, very much. And those of you who aren't booth buddies and are here, I appreciate you just as much. Anyway, until the next one of these, be well, everybody, and I'll see you there. Toodles.